Okay, so given the outlooks for the tropical Atlantic basin, what does this mean for the southeast region? Well, historically speaking, there may be a small correlation at best between Atlantic basin storms and southeast storms. The graphic here showing the Atlantic basin storms. These are the storms that developed in the that have developed in the Atlantic or the Caribbean. And you can see each year there from 1950 to 2010. And then the blue bar part of the graph, that is the actual southeast storms, the storms that actually affected the southeast. And you can see an active Atlantic basin storm, a year that had a lot of Atlantic basin storms, doesn't necessarily mean a lot of southeast storms, and vice versa there. So at best we can see a small correlation there between the two. And so what this is telling us is even though we've been talking about a lower tropical number of tropical storms based on the fact that we've got El Nino this summer coming, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have a smaller number of storms hit the southeast region. Here's another graphic. This is the tropical storms. Again, the Atlantic basin, and as you've probably been told before, during La Nina, the strong, moderate, and weak La Nina on the left side of the graph there, you can see generally we tend to have more tropical storms in the Atlantic basin. During El Nino, a lower number, and that's how they're talking again for this year. However, how does that look when we just talk about storms affecting the southeast? That's the red bar graph there. You can see not much correlation there as far as a smaller number during El Nino. Pretty much 2 to 4 storms, whether we have La Nina or El Nino, we don't see the relationship there we see in the Atlantic basin. So again, overall, this is telling us even though we're talking about a smaller number of storms for the Atlantic basin, that doesn't necessarily mean a smaller number of storms for the southeast, and a weaker chance at river flooding in the southeast as well.
So here is our ENSO forecast, which is forecasting right now an El Nino. And what that means is that our temperatures out in the Pacific Ocean are going to be above the normal, above where they normally are. Right here you can see these are all the dynamical and statistical models, and most of them are warming in the waters out there. And once it gets to a half a degree above normal for a 3-month period, now usually you have to have a season, you have to have a full 3 months, so we really need 5 months above normal to call it an El Nino event. And it looks like it will do that. It looks like we should be in that space or in that area sometime over the coming month. We might even be there very close to it right now. And then getting through the September time frame would qualify as an El Nino event. So what does that mean for our 3-month outlook? This is our precipitation outlook for June, July, and August. And right now for most of the southeast, we have equal chances for above normal, near normal, and below normal precipitation. Again, with not a whole lot, with below normal hurricane season right now, tropical season, there's just not a whole lot to lean one way or the other. We could have a little bit, maybe similar to what happened last year where we had the rainfall. It's just too hard to tell. And so right now, based on what they're seeing, we have equal chances for each one of those for our precipitation. As for the temperature forecast, the temperature forecast is going to have at least some impact on our rivers, in that during this time, if we do have above normal, we might have more evapotranspiration out of the soils. Things might dry out a little bit more quickly. So again, we'll have to watch to see if how much of an impact that will have on the southeast and on our soils, so that when we do get rain, how much of it runs off. Again, this is for June, July, and August. For the September, October, November rainfall period, again, equal chances. So that gives us 6 months of not a whole lot to hang our hat on to lean one way or the other. And so that's what we're looking at there. And for the temperatures, again, once we get into the fall, it looks like equal chances. It looks like real normal type situation in the southeast. Now, the big one that's coming up is the December, January, and February time frame. And we had talked before about having an El Nino. Well, if we have a moderate to strong El Nino, then we're going to have above normal chances for rain as we move into the winter. And this is something we're going to have to watch very closely as we go ahead in this time frame. We'll be talking about this throughout the summer, because if we have a weak El Nino, it might not have this impact. If we have a really strong El Nino, this might be even a bigger indicator. There might be more probability that we'll have above normal. So again, we're going to have to watch this to see which way it goes, but right now, the winter looks to be wet. So our current stream flow, now this is an instantaneous value from Monday, just to kind of show you where it kind of have normal conditions over the whole southeast as a snapshot, with the Suwannee River Basin and that area in South Georgia and North Florida above normal for this time of year. And so that kind of gives you a snapshot of where we are now. And this is kind of boring, but our stream flow forecast is looking for the same thing. We're looking at near normal for the hurricane season for at least June through September. We'll see how things go, but with all the indicators that we've already talked about, a normal forecast seems the most appropriate for us. So here's a little reminder about how you can stay informed. You're listening to the Southeast River Forecast Center Water Resources Outlook, and we'll continue to produce these throughout the summer to keep you up to date on what's going on. The Hydrologic Vulnerability Assessment, the HVA, which kind of before an event will kind of set the stage for any kind of tropical system that may be moving in, so that we can kind of let you know what to expect before the system gets here. The daily operational support message should give you updates on a day-to-day basis after an event, once an event has started. Once we've got a tropical system either near or on land, and we'll continue to produce those as long as we have uncertainty in our forecasts. And we continue to put some of these things on Facebook and some on Twitter. So go to our accounts, take a look, provide some feedback, like us, and pass them on when you do see something that you do like. So the bottom line, soils are near normal to slightly above normal, so that would give us a better chance maybe of having flooding during this time of year. Reservoirs are at normal summer levels, which is good news for everybody who recreates on those in those areas and so forth, but it doesn't have probably much of an impact on our forecast. Our SERFC ensembles are near normal. We are expecting lower than average tropical activity, and but again, so that kind of evens everything out. So that's why we go for a normal type forecast for this time frame. But a slow-moving tropical system can change the situation very quickly. So it's something we'll be looking for as we go forward. And so, as mentioned in the last bullet, hydromet situation is likely to change over the season. That is very, very possible. So just a couple of reminders. The Southeast RFC uses 48 hours of rainfall in our forecast. So whenever you get a forecast in the morning, evening, whenever, it will have 48 hours of rainfall in our forecast. As for, remember if you need more than that, or you kind of need a little bit more heads up, to go look at the MMEFS, the Meteorological Model Ensemble Forecast System, for contingency type forecasts. The web address that you see on there will give you where those are, what they are, and it will give you a little bit, and it will give you some explanation of how it works. And you can always contact us if you have more questions. And again, lower than average tropical activity. However, it only takes one significant tropical system to make 2014 an active weather season for the Southeast. So we'll be watching for that system, and hopefully we won't have any issues. I want to thank you for listening to our Water Resources Outlook. This one was a little bit long. They'll be a little bit shorter as we get into the summer.